like to talk, I like people, I like music, so I went into broadcasting. I went into radio and television. I used to do something like, good morning, this is AlanThompson with sports. Lee Trevino, weary from winning the U.S., Canadian, and British Open golf tournaments, was the first to tee off this morning in the second round of the $250,000 Westchester Golf Classic. He said, I'm getting punchy tired. Even though Trevino was 1 in the par in the first round, 40 golfers are ahead of him. And I'll have more sports in just a moment. Have you been shopping the showrooms to see the new cars? So I went into radio. And here's the interesting thing about how things are what most people say coincidental. I came back to Tampa. I was doing radio and television and voiceovers and things of this nature. And I saw in the newspaper, it basically said, real estate commercial wanted. I said, I think my agent missed an audition. So I went to the company, I knocked on the door and I said, excuse me, sir, I'm here to audition for the real estate commercial. He said, what? I said, right here, it says real estate commercial wanted. He said, no, that really should be commercial real estate, but come on in here and I'll talk with you. And that's how I came in this business 41 years ago. Now again, I filtered the word commercial through my point of reference was commercial. And that's what it meant. And interestingly enough, people say, wow, how coincidental was that? Well, they don't realize that the word coincidental is not accidental. It comes from angles in mathematics that perfectly coincide. The word coincidental comes from coincide. So there's nothing accidental. There's no one here by accident. You'll pick up at least one thing that can change your lives and become the pebble in someone else's pond and change a lot of lives. Now, since that time, I've been in the real estate industry for over 40 years. I've designed training for over 350,000 real estate professionals. This is probably about 10 years ago. Now it's probably up to about 500,000. I've trained trainers that have trained trainers throughout the United States and Canada. Also, I held many roles in the real estate industry. I was in banking. Interestingly enough, once you started doing well, it became a blessing and a curse. I came into the real estate industry not knowing what to do, went and got all of these designations, and then once I got these designations, I felt like I was competent and confident, and I said, now if that person doesn't list with me or go with me, it's their loss. They don't understand. I would run circles around half the industry because I chased knowledge in the beginning and not money. A lot of others just chase money. And in the end, the more you know, the further you did go. Interestingly enough, I went the last quarter, I won Rookie of the Year at the Century 21 office that's no longer in existence now, by listing 38 properties and selling 20 of them in the last quarter of the year. That was not my goal. My goal was to do 8 and 4. Every month, I wanted 8 sales, or 8 listings and 4 sales, knowing that 50% of them would sell and you'll be okay. I would finish my mission and I'd go fishing. The only way that I went on and I did 18 listings in 1 month, 10 and 10 for 38, was because I wanted to keep my name on the marquee outside. And it was a contest that you had to be the top sales to keep it on the marquee. And I thought, it's the 26th day of the month. I don't want my name to come down, because this was during the time that, I mean, I was very young in the industry. And I'm still young, so don't think, oh, wow, this guy's really old. But again, I was actually turning 21 when I came in the industry. And it was kind of interesting there. When I first got on that marquee outside, I went there and took a picture with the Polaroid cameras. Some of you all remember those Polaroid cameras. And I put that in my presentation book and things of that nature. I showed it to my mom. I didn't want my name to come down on the 26th day of the month. I was up against an agent. I had 9 listings. I was going to sandbag until the next month. She ended up having 11. I got 13, she got 15, and on the last day of the month, an investor gave me 3 listings. I had 18 listings, and she ended up with 15. Now again, knowing what I know today, I could have got a listing every single day if I wanted to. See, we had no technology back then. For those of you that know, there was no cell phones, there were no computers, there were none of that during the time that we started. So it's pretty interesting. I held a lot of roles from that. I was on a plane, Bank of America approached me. They ended up offering me a job as a senior VP in charge of Florida, Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee for multicultural markets prior to the economic downturn. I sat in meetings with Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Ginnie Mae, all of us trying to put together programs that would close the home ownership gap, which led to the economic downturn and catastrophic foreclosures and things of this nature. So a lot of things started happening because of what I thought was an accident was really supposed to happen. Since that period of time, then Stewart Title came after me, and they said, what we would like you to do, Alan, we don't have a position for you. Write your own roles and responsibility. We just want you so nobody else gets you. So I met with Matt Morris, that was pretty much the CEO of the Morris family of Stewart Title, and we met over in actually Orlando for that. After that, it was pretty much doing consulting for $350 an hour to executives, applying neuro-linguistic programming. Anyone know what neuro-linguistic programming is? What is it? Tell me. Go ahead and say what it is, sir.
Neuro-linguistic programming?
Yes. Okay, that's close enough. What did you say, sir? Yes.
It causes new synapses to be built in the brain.
That's a part of it. Is actually, just remember, neural is mind, linguistics is language, programming is from the IT world, using language to program the mind. Every single word that you hear has a feeling associated with it. If someone says work, it has a different feeling than play, vacation, love, hate. It automatically has certain things associated with it. I'm going to talk to you all about a lot of things and things that you can do in your business, because the actual presentation is dealing with communication. That's a transferable skill set all over, and it will touch you whether you are talking about a relationship or any business. Many of you all will have agents that you are actually managing. You will lose people because you don't listen to people. You don't know certain things. And it is only when the student is ready that the teacher appears. If you appear to know everything, then you have closed down and you can't learn anything else. You're at your ceiling. I remember teaching a group of brokers, 88 brokers in Boca Raton, and I said to them, I was thinking about a situation with a broker I was with, and I said, how many of you all know the difference between a lease purchase and a lease option? And in that room of 88 brokers, only 3 of them raised their hand. And this is way back when, only 3. And what that tells me is that you can't teach what you don't know. There's people in this room that don't know the difference. Is that true? And they've been in the business. So there's a lot of things that the one thing, my suggestion that I would give to you is continue to learn. Understand the fact that learn, the word earn is inside learn. And the more that you continue to learn, before you know it, you'll sit back and say, wow, how did I get here? How am I here? Now let me do something. I usually conduct a listening exercise just to see how well you listen. Imagine, if you will, that you are a bus driver and it's your mission to drive your bus. I want you to listen very carefully, but I don't want you to write anything down. Due east 4.4 miles, due west 3.3 miles, due south 2.2 miles, and due north 1.1 mile. Now here's your question. How old is the bus driver? Did I tell you? Did I tell you? Does anyone know how old the bus driver is? One person? 3 people. How old is the bus driver?
61.
How old is the bus driver?
29.
How old is the bus driver? 85. Now everyone's saying, how is that? Is there like 3 different people we didn't hear? Tell me how you know how old the bus driver is, sir. Yes.
You said I'm the bus driver.
I said, imagine, if you will, that you are a bus driver and it's your mission to drive your bus. 4 times I told you that you were the bus driver. We miss things. We miss things because we don't really listen. We hear. One is voluntary, the other is involuntary. We sit there and wait for our chance to talk. So we're sitting there thinking, okay, I'm going to say something really cool here. I'm going to jump in and I'm going to talk, and I'm waiting, and I'm not even listening to the other person. I'm not listening. See, hearing is involuntary. You can hear a siren go off, but listening is voluntary. And if you don't do it, and you're in a presentation, and you're up against multiple brokers, the reason that they may see this person versus that person and feel like they get it is because you're in sync, because I feel like you listen to me. Kids these days, we are looking at millennials. A lot of them don't process information the same because they live in a fictitious world that's dealing with the technology that does not allow them to fail. You can take a selfie and delete the pictures you don't like. So only thing that goes up there is the perfected you. There's a lot of things that people don't realize, and you miss things because you don't communicate. Not, you know the old adage, what's that golden rule? What's the golden rule? Someone tell me. Now that's pretty good as far as the intent. Do unto others as you would wish them to do unto you, right? That's wrong because the language is wrong. You should do unto others the way they wish to be done unto, not the way you are, because everyone's not like you. We live in a culturally diverse society. Everyone's not like you. If I do unto others the way you wish me to do unto me, I may invite Stacy over for dinner, and I say, Stacy, we're dating. I invite her over. I pretty much cook Chateaubriand. I've got some filet. I've got some shrimp here and lobster. All of that. I sit there, got the candlelight dinner on. I've got the Barry White in the background. I got everything. You know, I got Barry on. And so now she comes in, and she sits down and she says, Alan, I'm a vegetarian. Did that kind of mess up some things? Is there going to be a second date? Probably not. Huh? You got a second date? Okay. And now here's the thing. Let me ask you this. Let's say if I say to you, hey, can you turn the air up? Am I hot or am I cold? Huh? Well, I know I'm hot. I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying. Yeah. Am I hot or am I cold? Who thinks I'm hot?
It depends.
It depends on what?
On how you're turning it up. Increasing. Exactly. Do you, turn it up means do you want to increase the temperature or do you want to increase?
No, I'm asking one question. Am I hot or am I cold? Which one am I? Am I hot? Cold? Now let me ask you this. How would you know for sure? Ask me, Alan, are you hot or are you cold? Otherwise, you're going to do what a lot of people do, and that is they do it and they filter it through their own self or their own points of reference, and they do what they would do if they said it, not if you said it. Communication is basically transmission and reception, and you've got to understand how that other person thinks and not just how you think, because otherwise it's one-sided, it's unilateral. It's not bilateral. Communication has got to be both sides, and you've got to be able to understand that. If not, you will miss people and say, I don't understand why that person doesn't like me. You meet people, and you will sit there and meet them, and the moment they meet you, some people will say, I don't know what it is about that person, I just don't like it. Or you say, wow, it just seems like we've been knowing each other forever. The reason being is because people like people that are like them, or that they believe are like them. That's why neurolinguistic programming, embedded command, phonological ambiguity, and a lot of things that I'll talk about here will help you out in a relationship at home, a relationship anywhere, because communication, there is no such thing as private speaking. Everything is public speaking, whether it's one-on-one in an interview or it's a million people out in an audience, you're speaking in public. And you're being sized up by what comes out of your mouth. There's three things that an audience is looking at when they are listening to a speaker, presenter, or in a presentation, whether you're presenting whatever. One, they call them the 3 V's, as in Victor. It's the visual. It's what the audience sees when you're presenting. That's 55% of your persuasion, just when they look at you. Do you look the part? Do you look nervous? Do you look this? Do you look that? And they don't even do it where they're consciously doing it. They're subconsciously, the amygdala is looking at threat, reward, pleasure, pain, and it's sizing you up. First is the visual. The second is the vocal. How do you sound? If you get up in front of a person and you say, everybody, we're going to go ahead and do this, and then we're going to do that. Hey, can you please write that down? Because that sound is going to be so irritating that you're going to check out. You'll still be sitting there, but you have checked out. And then the third thing is what you say. Now, which one is most important? A lot of people would look at it, if all three add to 100% of your persuasion, then if I said break them down into their order of what you think is most important, 55% is what the audience sees. 38% is how you sound, and only 7% of your effectiveness is what you say. Companies give you scripts. They give the new people scripts. Hey, when they say this, you say this. When you say this, everyone gets scripts. So that's not as important as what that person sees and how you sound. Now, I was in Beverly Hills doing a presentation for their Association of Realtors on Wilshire. I said to them, I said, let me tell you something to solidify a point. Hollywood is 20 minutes from here. I said, in Hollywood, they've got a lot of casting directors. Is that true? They said, yes. I said, what makes them say they want Sylvester Stallone to play Rambo versus Arnold Schwarzenegger if they're given the same script? They're saying the same thing. Is that true?
Yeah.
So the only thing is going to be, he looks like what I think Rambo should look like, and he sounds like what I think Rambo should sound like. When you understand that, you can now make yourself a whole lot better when you go out on presentations because you understand what's going on in the minds of the people. I wrote a 5-part leadership series for the WCR, the Women's Council of Realtors. They had 88,000 users. They asked me to write it. I wrote it on the back of a napkin many, many years ago. Recently, Brian and I was downtown and I did a presentation for him, what, 3 weeks ago or so?
3 weeks ago.
And then from there, just a couple of days ago, I was teaching a group of broker managers for Ed Crawford Schools of Real Estate. I'm a licensed real estate instructor. I've written courses for FREC. My sales training book was the first sales training course that they approved because many years ago, they did not approve sales training courses. They wanted something to protect the public and assure minimal competence of real estate practitioners. I teach the real estate license law. Not an attorney, but I teach the law. And I listen to a lot of things that I see that things have changed. I wrote this course that they actually approved for 4 hours of teaching education because when I went to a few classes, I said, this is not what these individuals need to learn that's teaching the real estate course in the state of Florida. They approved this for 4 hours, and this is what individuals have to take every 2 years in order to keep their instructor's license, either through our school or somewhere. It's only 3 courses out there now. Now, going on. So we talked about leaders. We talked about the communication leader. I mentioned to you that basically you can be trying to say the same thing, but you're not, like the turning the air up that I mentioned. I heard a guy last night, which was really interesting, and it really just linked itself to this more. There was a person that said, he's a speaker, he said, this lady unsubscribed because she said that I cursed in my email or online. He has a newsletter. You know how you put those symbols up there and so forth with an exclamation point, an X, or this, that, the other, and it signifies that you're cursing? You know those? He did that, and so the lady said that she unsubscribed and sent him a message that I didn't like the fact that you cursed. He said, I didn't, she did. You follow me? She did, because nothing has a meaning until you give it one. So therefore, as if you give it one, it's like way back when they told us about all caps. You know that all caps, the etiquette there means what? What does that mean? You're yelling. What it meant to me is I didn't know how to turn the cap lock on. You gotta understand, my first sales training course that I wrote, when we got computers back with the Commodore 64, then the Commodore 128 and what have you, I didn't know how to turn the caps off. So now when I wrote this entire training manual and went to the group, I wasn't yelling. I just didn't know how to turn the caps off. You follow me? Now to that individual that was told how to think, they would say, well, this means you're doing that. No, it doesn't. You need to filter this thing to your own, through the way that person thinks and not the way you've been told to think. Go on. This guy said to me last night, and I drive a Mercedes, a big body Mercedes, and I was actually coming out of Publix. I was coming this way, and the guy was coming this way was a young guy with a young girl with him, and they were walking this way, and they were talking about the car, and they were looking at the rims. And then so they were looking there, and they were talking about it, and I happened to reach the trunk about the same time, them on that side of it, and me on this side of it, and they said, oh wow, that's OG's car. Hey, OG, your rims are crap. And then I thought, my rims are crap? He said, they're dope, man, they're dope. I'm like, now what is he talking about? So I go around to check my rims, but he was really giving me a compliment that the rims are dope. Now, how do I know that? You follow me? I went to check my rims to see if they were cracked. And it's like, where would I have cracked them? But people don't talk the same way. If I were to give you certain things and I gave it to you in Morse code, and this was the secret to the treasure chest out there, if you don't understand Morse code, you can't find it. You've got to speak the way people speak. You've got to understand it's not do unto others as you will wish them to do unto you. You've got to do unto them the way they want to be done unto. Because if not, you will find out that you will miss a lot of relationships. The name of this game, and I heard this before, is the root word is relationship. The root word is relate, in relationship. If you cannot relate, you cannot be in a relationship with the person. I was at Bank of America. It's pretty interesting. I was actually doing something. I went to a seminar that called a BEST seminar, B-E-S-T. It was a Black Economic Success Training Seminar. I went there because Magic Johnson was going to be there, Cordell West, Bishop Jakes, a whole lot of millionaires and billionaires had a panel about Black Economic Success Training. I went there to form a strategic alliance with my company and with Magic Johnson Company. That was my purpose. I go everywhere with a purpose. And interestingly enough, they would have the panel speak, and then at the end of the panel speaking, they would bring the microphones in the audience so that you can talk to one of the people or you can ask questions and so forth. And interestingly enough, it was like 9 times I stood in line to try to talk to Magic Johnson. And every time before it actually got to my time to talk, they said, cut, we got to go back with the program. And then so I went and they said, cut, they cut. I saw the 10th time they were actually getting ready to do it. I said, I better get in line early this time. So I get in line early to talk to Magic Johnson, and the facilitator comes down the line and he says, hey, you guys are speaking way too long. Can you like condense some of the stuff that you're saying? Because all of these people are not going to get a chance to talk. So I had 15 pages of notes because I was like, okay, I'm going to get my chance. I'm going to say everything that I need to say here. So now I've got to figure out, okay, you got to condense this. So now, why don't you let this person behind you go ahead of you? I told the person behind me to go ahead of me so that I can, revise my notes. And the moment this guy finished talking, they said, cut. I said, no, Magic. Here's the interesting thing about that. The guy said, what do you want, sir? We saw you in that line. When I told him, he said, wow, you don't need to talk to Magic. The person you need to talk to is that guy there, Ken. He's the managing partner for all of those guys. I said, well, let me talk to Ken. So Ken came, and we actually, he said, come walk with me. Let's talk, walk with me. I walked with him. He said, I've been knowing you for about 20 minutes, and I like you. He said, I'm about to let you into our circle. He said, in our circle, we control billions of dollars. He said, just don't try to go around me and get to them on your own or go ahead of me, but if you go with me, I will take you to each one of these partners one at a time. And he was true to his word. He called me 2 weeks later and he said, hey, Big A, I want you to come to Dallas and play golf with us. Emmett Smith is going to be on our team. And I said, wow, I got excited. And then I remembered, I don't know how to play golf. And that was, and so I hired an LPGA money winner to help me get into at least putting before I went out there. Now, long story short, these individuals, we went to play golf. We started at the Gaylord. We started early that morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, tea time, all this kind of stuff. We went all the way till after midnight. And they said, we've had people observing you and watching you that whole time, because you're the only one that didn't have to qualify to get into our circle. Everyone else that's in our circle had to qualify to be here. I thought, you don't know whether or not you guys qualify to be in my circle. Nobody knew how this thing worked, because not only did I do that, I ended up speaking at the Trump Organization on Wall Street. They wanted to meet Trump. And the Trump Organization, nobody knows how this thing shakes up, so it goes down to relationships. This guy could identify with me and sit back and say, Alan, that night they pulled the trigger on a $22 million piece of property that was foreclosed on, because this is during the economic downtime in Atlanta, and they were all sitting around the table there. I was trying to anticipate, what do they need next? I've got to sit here in this dynamics and say, what role am I in here? And so I sat there and I thought, okay, they're probably going to need their title check. They're going to need to know whether there's liens, whether this. I'm just thinking. They're still talking among each other. How much money, how much this, how much that. I'm listening, but I'm saying, what do they need from me? You follow me? And so I ended up sitting there and I said, let me go ahead and send an email to the president. I know she's not up because it's after midnight, but she's the president of the title company there at Stewart in Georgia. I'm going to send this off to her. Now, after that conversation, the guy turned around and they said, okay, what about title? Ken said to them, that's the guy right there, you know, he's a senior VP with Stewart title at that time. He says, he can probably get us that. I said, yes, and I'm already on it. At that same time, Tracy, which was the president of Georgia, answered it and said, I'll have someone on it first thing in the morning. I just turned my laptop around there and showed it to them, and they looked at it like, wow, this guy's on top of things. You follow me? A part of that is not only what it is with you, it's about you thinking about others. What does that person need? And then, and starting with that end in mind, what do you want that person to do, think, or feel when you begin whatever your presentation is? Now, going on, I talk about influence. Leadership is about influence. A speaker has to influence individuals, and my story, I talked about filtering it this way. When I was at Bank of America and I was speaking to a lot of individuals out in the audience, 1,400 at that one organization there, and I thought, wow, these people, I said the word broker. Now remember, I'm a real estate broker. I meant real estate broker. They said they thought I was talking about a mortgage broker. Someone else said an insurance broker. Someone else said a stock broker. All in the same room, filtering the word broker through their own point of reference. Does that make sense? That's what communication is all about. We don't say it the same. We don't do the same. There's a book that was called Kiss, Bow, and Shake Hands. Many years ago, before real estate became global and it was more localized, and this is before the MLS and all of that, there was people that we all do it the same. We follow the follower. We go, we shake hands because that's what we do in America. However, we saw some things happening, and they came and spoke with a lot of the instructors in the state of Florida, and I was one of the instructors, and they said, we're gonna have to start teaching real estate agents something different because this is becoming a worldwide market, and everyone doesn't shake hands. So they brought a book called Kiss, Bow, or Shake Hands. Has anyone found cultural differences and how, let me see your hands, anyone. How did you handle that, sir? How did Paul?
You follow them the same way that how they come to you, you do the same thing back.
You do the same thing. You, sir?
I think he said it pretty well.
Okay. Okay, and that's it. But you gotta know that. Is that true? I mean, I sold a large strip center with a lot of businesses in it, and I didn't realize that I shook his hand, and I went to shake the wife's hand, and he said, no, you don't touch Muslim woman. You don't touch Muslim woman. I didn't know that. You follow me? So that could have been offensive to that person, but it was ignorance on my part because I didn't know that. I didn't research it enough to say, this person is not like me. It is not do unto others the way they want to do unto me. It is, how shall I do unto that person because they're not like me. And moving on, we have a lot of types of public speaking. All of these people are speaking in public, from the lender, the processor. And the interesting thing about it is they're all sizing you up based on what comes out of your mouth. You're being sized up. You're being sized up based on whatever is coming out of your mouth. So You want to make sure, if nothing else, you get better at public speaking because you're always speaking in public. Your presentation skills will either win or can lose the deal because they can sit back and say, it didn't look like that person was really wanting this or didn't want whatever. One of the things that Warren Buffett said, and if you look it up on the internet, he said the thing that he did that made the best for everything that he has done in his life was go to a Dale Carnegie course on pretty much public speaking, because he said, now, if you don't learn how to do public speaking early in life, it will hurt you all of your life. Now, there was a guy that was inside a restaurant. He said to me, he said, Alan, it's funny you should mention that. He said, I'm a very successful engineer. He said, but I remember I was okay doing public speaking when I was in high school, and I was okay in college. He said, but I remember when I started my first corporate job at a Fortune 50 company that they asked me to do something and speak to the board. He said, we were in a hotel, and when I started speaking, I heard my voice echo from the other room. I didn't like the sound of my voice, and my voice constricted. I started perspiring, and I couldn't speak to that board at all. I couldn't finish the speech. He said, now, Alan, if that was the end of the story, that would have been hard enough. He said, but for the next 19 years, I couldn't do it, and it hindered and made my career suffer because I didn't get promotions because I couldn't speak in front of a group. Is there anyone like that here that not that great at speaking in public? Right there? Why not?
I'm going to be 66 years old.
66, wow.
So it's the hardest thing I think for anybody to speak in front of a group. I don't care who it is. Give me a perfect case.
That's right. And why do you think that? Someone tell me, why do you think that? You guys are leaders.
Self-conscious.
Self-conscious. What are you self-conscious of, Mike? What do you think? What's going on in the heads of it? Huh?
I'm fat.
What do you think, Joe?
I have that problem all the time. I'm the state chairman. I don't like getting up in front of people and talking. I know it sounds really strange, but I don't. But a one-on-one or a group of individuals, I have no problem with it. It's just in front of a group of people, I'm not comfortable with it.
That's good. And I'm glad you would admit that, because a lot of people won't admit it. But it affects their selves, it affects their confidence, it affects them if they're in a church and they're supposed to give a presentation, they didn't want to. There's a lot of opportunities that they shy away from because they're afraid to speak in front of the public. Stacey.
One of the things I learned doing my podcast and working with Spirit FM, doing announcements and things like that, is that they taught me that people don't know how to smile and talk. And if you can learn how to smile and talk at the same time, you come across as far differently. Your sincerity comes out, your personality comes out. If you just talk like this and you're doing a presentation, people are like, So learn to smile and talk, whether it's on the phone, on a Zoom, face-to-face, in a conference, and it will absolutely change the whole way that you present.
That's from one side. That's the exterior. The interior is those voices that's going on in your head, just like what Mike said, the self-conscious thing, that this, wait, I don't know if I'm prepared. What if that group is smarter than me? What if da-da-da? It is that self-talk. It is that little bitty voice in your ear that's saying, I don't know if I can. That is affecting what you say. Jeremy was an orphan kid. He was orphaned at the age of 8. And that he was an orphan, his aunt and his uncle raised him, and he went on to become a very successful engineer, and he was based out of Brazil. So last Christmas, he wanted to do something for them, so he began the preparations of getting them a macaw. He got the bird cleared from all of the diseases and what have you, and he sent it to them. It arrived about 3 days before Christmas, but he waited until New Year's to call them to see if they got the bird. So he calls them up and he said, hey, Uncle, did you get the bird? He said, yes, we did, son, and it was delicious. He said, wait a minute, don't tell me you ate that bird. That bird cost me a fortune. That bird could speak 3 languages. They were silent on the phone for a few seconds, and then his uncle said, well, he should have said something. And so, and there's always a voice that's going on in your head. There's always self-talk that's going on. It doesn't stop. This is the interesting thing about NLP, and what you're finding out is that people have nonverbal communication. That's body language. if someone sits like that, isn't it? That's body language. Folding arms, unnatural gestures, a blank look or staring. When you're watching an audience and you see that someone's staring, especially if you're teaching, and you start saying, okay, we're going to talk about the PGI minus the VCL plus the OI equals the EGI minus the fixed variable and reserves for replacement equals an NOI, which becomes the I of verb. So you take the income and you divide it by the rate, and they're sitting there like, they left me. Now they'll be still sitting there, but they have checked out. Why? Because you're speaking so far over their head or doing things that they don't understand. And with that being the case, you're not teaching, because if you're not communicating and they're not getting what you're saying, it's not effective.
I need a 2-minute timeout.
2-minute timeout, okay.
And here's the deal, they put the food out early and they can't leave it out too long without it being done, so maybe you go grab some food, sit back down, listen to Alan, but otherwise they have to take that and throw it away.
Oh, yeah. I'm not gonna stand between the food.
So
I got some more good jokes and everything, but not food. So you guys go.
I never want to interrupt the probe, but
Yeah.
right now it's
Yeah, let's get the
probe,
food, let's get the
and they
food.
just let me know, hey, we put it out too
All
early,
right.
and they screwed up. Doing good. So I'm sorry about that, but they're like, hey, we missed out on food. Get the vegetables. So, the locust, clear out that plate. Hey, man. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, thank you. What's up? Yeah? How you doing now? Yeah, you look good. Yeah, that's right. I know. I know. Well, you're feeling good. Remember Stacy? Oh, Stacy, I didn't met you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you recovered well. Sorry you're going through all that. Yeah, but you close the deal no matter, even though you're going through all that crazy.
Awesome. Really enjoying it. It's really good